Welcome to Lovelace Academy, third module of Plutus Experience. In this module, we're gonna start our first web app application using Purescript and UtxOs. So, breakthrough. In this example, I will show you how to build a simple web app. And it's strictly not related with Cardano. You could use the same solution for other things. It's just a form that the user can put some information. It will be just a form that the user can fulfill with any kind of information. We're not validating anything, and then submit through a server using HTTP post request. It's not complicated. It will be an interesting use case that can be an example of usage of everything that we have learned so far. Of course, there are better tools to do the same thing. The way that I did is just to show you how to use everything that we learned with like algebraic data types and so on. Certainly, there are better ways to build the example with using some framework or some library. So this is the scenario. The visitor fulfill its address in the form. Visitor submits the form. Then visitor receives a success message. In our case, it's going to be a web page that's going to show the posted data, just that. Here's the bootstrap to get the application ready to be built. I'm going to repeat each step here. So breakthrough. In this example, we're going to start something very simple. It's just a form that submits to a server through post request. And the scenario is going to be basically the visitor fulfill its address in a given form, the visitor submits, and the visitor receives a success message. And the idea is just to show you how to use everything that we learned so far to build something. Even if it's not the best way to build that, there are probably a lot better ways of doing that. There are libraries and frameworks to be used to build web apps, which simplifies this a lot. But I want to show you, uh, I want to have this exercise with you to try to reinvent the wheel and see what happens. So let's repeat the bootstrap here. So I create a folder for our solution. I'll call this solution to not use the same name because sometimes UtxOs does not work when try to use the same name. It conflicts. So I have created this folder solution, enter that. So let's show to you what I did here. The first thing that I did, I started a new Nix Flake project, and Flake is this new feature of Nix. Let me show you. So this finished our bootstrap. Let me show you what I have here. Let me add everything here and commit. Now we can just run, if you take a look at this next flake, let me show you. Let me close this other window here because I'm not gonna need that anymore. So I have this watch command that's gonna run the dev environment, okay? And we can see if everything's building correctly as expected. What's gonna be built? We have a main file here that just has this main function, as you can see, and just log something. Okay, so let's see if this thing is working. So I run again Nix developing this new shell. It's gonna open a new shell where I can just call watch Okay, this is gonna build and keeping watching for chains. So every time that I change something here like this for hello Plutus experience, for example, we have a new build here. So we're gonna have here a new folder output, okay, with the compiled files and also the main file here that we can use on any node runtime, okay? A browser can also using that in browsers. Let me try to run this in Node, so you can. Let me first open here the shell, and I'll show that working on Node. Okay, so it's working. What we have here, just the modify the source file and this new main. We can, of course, git ignore that. We don't need to have that in our files. And I'll comment this and add chain log. Okay. Okay. Now, now I want to use this in browsers. So what I'm gonna do here is, so now I want to use this in browsers, and to do that, I will create a new derivation here that gonna allow us to run byte and run bundle and everything we need with a single command. So I'll add here. So I'll remove this shell hook here, and I'll use derivations for everything. So removing this, and instead of this watch, we're gonna have Bruce watch, and this is familiar too because we have used the same function before. So I'm just doing the same thing. So I created this derivation and with the same command to watch, okay? And we're gonna use this command here from Nix packages. This command you're already familiar with. I have explained that before. And also this, you're familiar with this is Purescript command you're familiar with. So I'll replace this command here for the same ps command. So we're gonna do that here. ps command gonna be ps.command this way. And I'm gonna add this ps command here so we can also use Nix in our shell, okay? And I'll also add purswatch here so we can use purswatch in our shell too. Let's save here and see if this is working. I'll close the shell and open again. And I'll try to run purswatch there. Okay, now I probably have access to purswatch. And there's it. It's working as expected. Now I'll remove this because we're not using this. You can also remove this if you're not using this here, but I'll leave this comment. Maybe in the future we could use that, but not here for a while. And that's it. This add per swatch. Let's add now a command to bring up our dev environment with Vite. Okay. And a small explanation of about Vite is. Vite is a tool, a front-end tooling that allows us to import JavaScript code, and it's really nice. It have many configurations. You can have many things. It's really fast. It's also performance is a thing for this tool. It basically it's do the same thing as PuresWatch, but it's gonna be watching our main file, actually our output. I'll point device to our output main file and run the Vite in our Nix environment. So let's do that. So the first thing I'm gonna do is, let me comment everything here. So let's create the Vite derivation, okay? So you can use this Vite right here as a Vite command. So it's gonna be package same right shell application, and the name is gonna be Vite, okay? And it depends on some runtime inputs. Actually just Node.js, okay? To run Vite, we need to have Node, so we need to bring Node here. And the command is gonna be just npx Vite. And I'll use this flag here to automatically open a browser tab for us, whatever we run the Vite command. So this is gonna, npx is gonna download and install using npm package system Vite, and run this command Vite in our current folder, and I'll add this here. I did here already, okay. And we're gonna see when we run Nix develop here and call Vite. You're gonna see this is gonna run a dev server development server on our folder. Okay, so you can see it opened the host here, and we have a 404 here error because we still don't have an endpoint in our application. Vite does not know how to, build a web page for us. We need to have a minimal HTML file to do that. You can see here, could not determine endpoint for rollups and HTML files. So we need to add a HTML file so Vite can serve that file in the network, So I'll press key to close this, actually Control C. So the Vite command is working, but we still need to have something here, okay? And I'll create here a child node here called index.html. This file is going to be our entry page, main entry point of the application. I'll use this template here. So HTML template for Purescript, and here in the body we have a script, and we need to use type module, okay, to be able to use as modules imports like here. And we're gonna straight import the Purescript file here, as we are doing here, and we need to manually call main, okay? Because if you take a look here, the produced output from Purescript, which is our Nix, okay? You're gonna see there's a main file here with index, and this exports a main. Okay, so we need to call that main function like we're doing here. I'm not using this main file because I'm not using the AES build version. We could use, but I prefer to use the Vite one, which is uh, is faster. You know, it's more compatible. So I really recommend you to also use the Vite version. And because we are not using this main file, we can remove that. And our index is gonna use our output from the Purescript package. So we have our Purescript. I did this change here. Normally we have bundle here with Purescript, and I changed that for compiling. This is important because the bundle produces that main.js file. Okay, and because Vite does that also, it's like a duplication of the same job. So we don't need to bundle to use with Vite. We can just compile the output to ES modules with this command here. And Vite gonna read any ES modules and bundle also for development and for production as needed. So you don't need to take care of the bundle with Vite. Vite is gonna do that for you. Okay, so that ends our Vite configuration. Okay, if I open Vite now, it's gonna probably detect that output. And as you can see here, we have already an empty page. And if you take a look at the console, you have hello Plutus experience here. Okay, I still need to open two shells to run my dev environment. This is really this is not a nice development experience. So you can also write a derivation that do both things for us. And for that, I'll create this new dev derivation. So dev, the idea is to run both commands, you know, into single command. And I'll use a nice library to do that. It's not a library actually, it's a tool. So we're gonna have dev here, and this dev. We're gonna use this concurrently package for Nix. It also runs on Node, but it has a native derivation for Purescript. You can just use that without any PX, for example. So you can see there's a package for that using the nix.org search for that. That was where I found this. So, for example, if I look here concurrently, for example, you're gonna see, oh, there's this concurrently package here, and you're gonna see that it's the same as npm. You can see that there are actually two versions of that, one natively and another not pack. I don't know the difference, but they are basically the same thing. It's a tool that allow us to run things in parallel. So to run things in parallel, I'm gonna use, you can check the help for this too to see how to use that, but normally we just need to pass all the commands that we need to run in parallel here. And this tool is nice because it's gonna handle, you know, what happened when some subcommand be like it's closed or some error happens. It's gonna automatically close everything. So it's really nice and it's really better than just trying to use to hack, you know, process piping and things like that. So here we have the dev, we have concurrently working here, and I can close this now and run Nix development now again and call dev. And the idea is to run in parallel pursewatch and vit. So because pursewatch is watching source folder, every time that I change source folder, pursewatch is gonna recompile and generate a new output. And because output is being watched by vit is gonna recompile and rebuild the JavaScript code to be and reload also the browser automatically. So everything's gonna happen automatically. We have an error here. Let me see what we have here. Okay, this spelling. Okay, done. And now we're gonna open the dev command, and we can see both jobs happening. One for building, another for the vit command. And here in the browser, it opened this tab, and I can show you that if I change this, for example, the source code to something else like hello, let me add a space here and space. It automatically refreshes everything and rebuild everything here. And you can see the log here is working as expected. Okay. With that, now we can start to produce code actually that gonna do what we want to do. Okay. So let's start that. I remove this log. I'm not use log. The first thing that we're gonna need to do in our page is set the HTML of the web page. Okay, and we're gonna set that for something. So I have gonna create this function set HTML. Okay, and I'm gonna create. Let me open the dev shell here so we can follow the compilation. And then we're gonna need to render this form. And the idea is to have this rendering function getting some structure. There's gonna be from some data type and transform that into a single string that then can be set as HTML of our page. Okay, that's the basically idea of what I'm doing here. So we should have all those guys here. Okay, and you can see we have errors here because we still need to define those guys. So I will not explain details how foreign function imports works. I'll just briefly introduce you to that. In Purescript, we can import from the Purescript modules, or we can also import from JavaScript code. And I will use this shortcut. We don't really need to deeply understand that right now. Just deal with that as any other function. So I'm gonna like use this special key here for a import set HTML. This is gonna import a function from JavaScript side called set HTML. Okay, and this function is gonna have this type signature. So it takes a string. Okay, and it returns effect unit, which is basically the same type as this main function here. And also, I didn't explain how effect works, but you don't need to be worried about that now because it's going to be explained very soon. But we are just doing that for a while just because we need to match the type of the main function here. Okay, so this set of HTML function, the JavaScript side should take this string and do some side effect on the JavaScript side to render this HTML on our web page. Okay, so we're gonna have this. To create this function on the JavaScript side, we create this the how FFI works, so don't need to worry too much about this. I'll explain better in the future. But you need to have the file with the same name here called main.js and use and declare export actually the function using a ES module. So you're gonna have this set HTML function taking some HTML string. Okay, this is a string, and we need to return um, the something here. Okay, what is that? Basically, because we are using a fact type there, we need to return a function here. I will explain that better in the future, how that happens, how this function is gonna be run. But you just need to know now that this function is gonna be run by some other place, and this function that I'm returning here is actually applying the side effect of changing the DOM. Okay, so in this case I just call window document body inner HTML to the HTML given here. So we just change the page HTML with that render command. Okay, with that export we use the the set HTML function here. Okay, maybe we should test that. Let's see if it's working already. I'll place here a div with Plutus experience inside, so we can see if we don't have this here. You can see if it's working. As you can see, look, it's working. Our page loads, and as soon as it loads, it runs that function in the JavaScript side and change the content of the page. Okay. So in theory, we can just remove this and chain for anything else like our previous render and form function. Okay. So let's start with this render function. Okay. To start this render function, I'll create a new module so we can split the logic regarding the rendering from the logic from the business logic of the form. Okay. So in this example, I'm going to create a new form, a new module called form, and then we're going to have a render function. Okay, and why not also a form, but let's keep this form there. And we need to create this module. Let me add a new child called. So we need to have this render function, and like I said before, we're going to use some data type, and I'll call this I'll call this in the general form of widget node. You're gonna understand why. So what this function is gonna have is a widget node, okay, to render. This is just a general way of calling a widget or some element of the page, okay? And it should return the string, which is the HTML representation of this data structure we have created, okay? Let's create this widget node. It's gonna be widget node, widget. So because we need to have like this, we have to have some kind of hierarchy between what is in the top, like in the form. Like you can have the form, you can have elements of the form. So the fields, for example, input field, submit button, and so on. So we need to have like a hierarchy between, okay, this is the current widget, and this another one gonna be like the children, of the widget, and they are gonna also be widget nodes. So we can have like recursive type for that. So we have the data constructor here. We have the widget definition here for the current node, okay? And inside this node, we can have many other widget nodes. So it's recursive reference widget node itself, okay? So what is widget? So widget is going to be input. I'll call this input type. And this input type represents the HTML input, okay? So in a form, for example, we can have many kinds of different inputs, one for text, one for passwords, and so on. So we're gonna have this widget, and this widget has this type constructor for input where we define the input type, and we can or not define the name of the input. Okay, so the name is optional because for example, if you're creating input of the type submit, we don't need to specify the name. That's the case that I remember for the head. You can check the MDN docs for more details on HTML input fields if you're like curious about that. And also we can build input with some label. So for example, if I say, okay, this is an address, this is a wallet address in our case, but it could also be your name, yeah, any information for that, use it for that input, okay? Another way of creating some widget is the form itself. So because we have the form element, okay? So the form element has at minimum, it has the method, which is the HTTP request method, okay? It can be get, post, and so on. And it also has an action. You can check the docs for forms on MDN. You can see that the minimal required information for a form is to have the method and the action, which points to some URL where the user is gonna be, redirected, or where the information is gonna be posted. So we can build with get this both ways, okay? So this finish our with get definition. And what about this maybe label input type in method? We can just alias them for strings. So input type string, label is also a string, method also a string, and action string. There are no difference in the compile time using this type. There are no difference between using just string and using the type given here. For the compiler, there is no difference. It's just to help us to understand. Okay, this is not the same as. I mean, for the compiler perspective, it's gonna be the same thing. An action from a method, from a label, from an input. But for our perspective as coder, there's gonna be different things, with the same underlying string type. So I can mix them together. Also, of course, the compiler will not warn you if you try to match method with action, for example. It's gonna work normally because, like I said, it's just an alias for string. So that's the difference, of course, between type and data, because data is gonna be strict about data type difference, even if the underlying type is the same. Okay. Okay, because we use it maybe here, we need to import data maybe, and that's it.